showing up, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden, your steadfast advocate for health. This is my webinar on eye health and what you can do to support and promote the healthy function of your eyes with science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. I like to begin at the beginning, and so let's take a little look at the anatomy of the eye. Don't worry, there will be no test. So the eye is a fascinating subject. It's like a ball with a hollowed out inside, and the inside hollow part of the ball is filled with fluid. In the front of the eye, we've got the pupil and the lens and the cornea, and in the middle of the eye, we have something called the vitreous fluid, and in the very back of the eye, we have the retina, and the retina attaches to the back of the eye very much like a thin sheet of plastic, right, on your cell phone. If you have a cell phone cover, right, you bought one of those clear plastic covers to go over the face of your cell phone. That's very similar to the retina. The retina itself is very thin, and it attaches to the back part, the back half of the eye. And it is the retina that contains the cells, the rods and the cones, which receive light and magically somehow turn the light stimuli into images that your brain can see. And those images are transported through the optic nerve, which is in the back of the eye, into the brain. It's a fascinating thing, the eye. And if you are of the atheistic persuasion, then I encourage you to study the anatomy of the eye, because it is an unbelievably complex and fascinating organ. Now, you know, just like different parts of the body, the eye needs nutrition. And our fundamental message here is that here's the amount of nutrients that the body needs. There are 90 essential nutrients that the body needs. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 2 essential fatty acids. These are essential nutrients that the body needs, but it cannot make. So just like the rest of the body needs nutrients, the eye needs nutrients. And if your nutrient capacity, your nutrient stores in the body are diminished, then it's only a matter of time until something in the body breaks. And sometimes people have inherited, I'm of the opinion that people inherit weaknesses in their body from their parents and grandparents, and that these weaknesses are the first parts of the body to go when the body experiences nutrient deficiencies. So some people have a tendency to get weak joints. Some people have a tendency to produce skin symptomology. Some people have a tendency for eye pathology, right? Cardiovascular pathology, heart pathology. I believe that these weaknesses are inherited, but then they are acted upon by the stress of life and, most importantly, the lack of nutrients that are finding their way into the body, because the food does not contain all of the nutrients that your body needs in order to be healthy. It never did, quite frankly, but because of agriculture and the way that farmers are using pesticides and herbicides, the amount of nutrients in the food has become less and less and less and less over time because of mineral depletion in the soil and mineral depletion in the plants that are grown in the soil, which has been sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. I've spoken at length about that in other webinars. Nonetheless, the eye is no exception to the nutrient deficiency rule, and here is a brief overview of the nutrient needs of the eye. The lens needs vitamin C, vitamin E, bilberry, lutein, lycopene, astaxanthin. Astaxanthin and zeaxanthin are interesting antioxidants, and they have been clinically proven, zeaxanthin specifically, has been clinically proven to reduce macular degeneration and the formation of cataracts. The pupil needs zinc. Grapeseed extract is beneficial for the pupil. Bilberry extract has been proven scientifically to be beneficial for the health of the pupil. Vitamin A, selenium, lycopene, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc. All of these nutrients and antioxidants have been clinically proven to be beneficial to the overall function and health of the eye. And therefore, it would be prudent for you, if you are concerned with having healthy eyes, to make sure that some, if not all, of these nutrients and antioxidants find their way into the body. The eye needs nutrients just like the rest of your body does. Now, let's take this a little deeper, a step further, all right? So, interestingly, in order to understand eye pathology, things that can go wrong with the eye, it would be helpful to understand the anatomy of the head. So let's go there next. So here you see the brain inside the head, and the brain is covered by the skull. And the skull is cushioned. There's a cushion between the brain and the skull of fluid, and it's cerebrospinal fluid. This is the stuff that they look for in a spinal tap. Let's take a look at that once more. I want to show you something here. Now, okay, here we go. The brain inside the head, covered by the skull, and I'm going to stop it right here. Oops, I thought I would stop it right there. Don't you just love live presentations? Yeah, there we go, right there. So do you see those squiggly things right here at the base of the brain? Those are cranial nerves. They're nerves that are coming directly off of the brain, and there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves, right? 12 on the right, 12 on the left. The cranial nerves go to the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and throat in order to make them work. They're motor and they're sensory. Motor parts and sensory parts. Motor parts make things work. Sensory parts receive sense information and send it to the brain. Now, most of the nerves that go to the body come off of the spinal cord and exit the spinal cord in the back and in the neck and in the butt. The vast majority of the nerves that innervate the body come off of the spinal cord in the neck, in the back, and down into the sacrum and the butt. But there are 12 nerves which come directly off of the brain and go to eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and throat. And this is an important consideration because, and here they are, by the way. Here's a list of the cranial nerves, right? Olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial nerve. Remember, there's no test. And so forth and so on. You can read. Different cranial nerves go to different parts of the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and throat in order to make things work. And when we are concerned with the eye health and eye function, as we are in this webinar, these are the nerves that we're going to pay attention to. The optic nerve, the oculomotor nerve, the trochlear nerve, and the abducens nerve. And these nerves make the eyes work, right? They go to the optic nerve, which receives images from the retina that we see with that we know the light comes in through the eyes, hits the retina. The rods and cones in the back of the retina receive the light images and transport them through the optic nerve to the brain. That's how we see things. Fascinating. There are other nerves which move the eyeballs up and down and help to focus the eyes. Fascinating stuff. And these are the nerves that come into play when we are talking about the health of the eye. But remember, the brain is covered by the skull. It's a hard bone, right? Now we've got these cranial nerves. How are the cranial nerves going to get from the brain to the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and throat? The skull's in the way. Well, nature has created holes in your head. You actually have 24 holes in your head, 12 on the right and 12 on the left, that the cranial nerves go through in order to get to where they are going. So the optic nerve goes through a tunnel in the skull in order to get to the eye. The oculomotor, the trochlear nerve, the abducens nerve, similarly, they all go through tunnels in the skull in order to get to their destination organ. And this is an important consideration here. And if you could just visualize with me here for a moment, let's pretend that we are inside the skull looking out. All right? This represents one of the holes in your head that the cranial nerves are going to go through. All right? And here's a bad graphical representation of one of the cranial nerves. Okay? And so as this cranial nerve leaves the brain, it goes through the hole in the skull in order to get, in this case, to the eyes. Now, in a healthy skull, the bone is healthy and sound. But in an unhealthy skull, the bone is not sound. And if the bone is not sound, the tunnel in the bone is not going to be sound either. So, due to nutrient deficiencies over time, specifically mineral deficiencies and sulfur-bearing molecule deficiencies, which any bone in the body needs in order to be healthy, the tunnels that the cranial nerves go through can start to collapse. Just like if you're digging out of the stalag, right? You're digging a tunnel, you have to shore the walls of the tunnel up, right? Or maybe it's going to cave in on itself, and that's not a good thing. Well, similarly in the body, in the skull, this can happen. If the skull bone becomes unhealthy, the little tunnels that the cranial nerves go through can become compromised. And if the opening becomes compromised, it's going to squish down on the nerve that's coming through the tunnel, and it's going to create all kinds of problems. And again, this is really elementary, from the proper perspective, right? Everything makes sense. So let me just walk you through it. So if the cranial nerve that goes to your nose to help you smell is constricted because the tunnel has collapsed, you're not going to be able to smell anything. If it's the nerve that goes to your inner ear that regulates your sense of balance, you're going to have vertigo. If it's the nerve that goes to your eardrum that helps you to hear things, you're going to have ringing in the ears. If it's the nerve that goes to your tongue, to the sensory receptors in your tongue, you're not going to be able to taste things, or things are going to taste really funny to you. Salty things will taste sweet, and sweet things will taste bitter, and it's crazy, all the permutations that can happen there. If it's the nerve that goes to your voice box, you can get a chronic laryngitis or just lose your voice completely. And, of course, if it happens to be the optic nerve, the oculomotor nerve, the trochlear nerve, or the abducens nerve, which are the nerves that innervate the eye, which become problematic because their little tunnels have become compromised, then you're going to get all kinds of eye pathology. Not the least of which would be lazy eye. I know we've all seen people that have had lazy eyes, right? One eye is looking straight ahead and the other eye is looking yonder someplace, right? There's a famous actor who has a lazy eye. He's an African-American guy. What's his name? He was just in the latest Star Wars movie. I'll think of it in a minute. In any event, we've all seen people with a lazy eye. And why does this happen? Well, because the muscles that are around the eye that move the eye and help the eye focus, the nerve signals going to those muscles have been compromised. And is that because you have a bad gene? No, it's most probably because your skull bone has lost its structural integrity, And that little tunnel that the nerve that's going through to innervate the muscles in the eye has become compromised. It's like arthritis of the skull, osteoporosis of the skull, more or less. Weak skull bone, right? You know, any bone in the body can become weak. It's called osteoporosis. So it's a similar thing that happens here. Very, very interesting. Now, of course, if it's the optic nerve that's pressed upon, the optic nerve itself, which is the big nerve that comes off of the back of the eye that brings the visual stimuli to the brain, you're going to have all kinds of trouble with your vision, or you're going to go blind. So when the optic nerve also becomes compromised, blood supply to the eye can become compromised, and blood supply to the eye can also become compromised by other things than structural damage to the skull bone, right? The vessels that are in the eye, the blood vessels that are in the eye, are an unbelievably intricate network of fascination as far as I'm concerned. By the way, this little red circle here on the far end of the screen is what the eye looks like when you look into the eye with the otoscope. Have you ever wondered what that looks like? You go to the eye doctor and they look in your eye with that little device that they hold up, right? It's called an otoscope. Well, this is what they see. This is what a healthy eye looks like. And if we are to kind of microscopically enhance this, you'll get a sense of what I'm talking about. The blood vessels, the network of really, really, really small blood vessels that feed the eye is fascinating, are fascinating. And remember, it's the function of circulation anywhere in the body to bring nutrients and oxygen to wherever it's going to, and then to remove waste products and nitrogen and carbon dioxide from wherever it was innervating, right? So it's no different in the eye. Good stuff in, bad stuff out. Good stuff in, bad stuff out. Now, any blood vessel in the body can get clogged. Most people only think that it's the vessels around the heart that can get clogged, right? Because that's what we know the most about: atherosclerosis and coronary artery disease and the widowmaker syndrome, right? Well, blood vessels in the heart can get clogged. Guess what? Blood vessels in the eye can get clogged. Blood vessels anywhere in the body can get clogged. Blood vessels in the kidney get clogged, you get high blood pressure and kidney disease. Blood vessels in the eye get clogged, you get glaucoma and macular degeneration and all kinds of eye pathology, which just makes sense because there's less good stuff in and less bad stuff out. That's a recipe for disaster. So one of the things that we are up to here when we are interested in establishing a healthy eye is to make sure that the circulation of the eye is intact. And remember, our basic understanding here for healthy circulation anywhere in the body is to stop eating foods that are causing inflammation. These would be the 12 bad foods. Stop eating foods that are causing inflammation, and strengthen the fire department of your body with selenium and antioxidants. Because the fire department of your body's job is to put out the fires of inflammation before they cause damage. And we are of the opinion that it is chronic, unchecked, low-grade inflammation in blood vessels anywhere in the body, which is one of the main causes of those blood vessels getting clogged up. It's not cholesterol. Cholesterol is unrelated to the clogging of arteries. There have been lots of books written on this. My favorite is this one, The Cholesterol Myths by Ufi Ravenskov, M.D. Ufi Ravenskov, M.D. The jury is in, ladies and gentlemen. It's not cholesterol that causes arteries to get clogged up. Of course, Big Pharma doesn't want you to understand that. If you did, they couldn't sell 20 to 25 billion dollars of cholesterol lowering statin drugs a year. But that's another lecture. So when we are attempting to optimize the health of the eye, it would be prudent for us to optimize the circulation in the eye and also to optimize the health of the skull bone, right? Just makes sense. Again, from the proper perspective, everything makes sense. So I'd like to show you by way of comparison pathology in the eye. On the top red circle is a healthy eye. The bottom red circle is an unhealthy eye. See that little blot right there? That's called a hemangioma. It's like a bubble on a blood vessel, and or sometimes the bubble can burst, and that's not good, and that's what has happened there. One of the blood vessels in the eye has burst. And you know, why do blood vessels burst? Because they lose their elasticity. They become friable and fragile. Why do they become friable and fragile? Because you have a bad gene? No. In this case, because your body has run out of copper. Copper is a nutrient which is essential for elasticity anywhere in the body, including in blood vessels. Here's another picture. You can see there's really a great deal of difference between the healthy eye on top and the unhealthy eye on the bottom. The unhealthy eye on the bottom is an illness called ischemia of the eye, which is fancy schmancy doctor talk for extreme loss of blood flow to the eye. Extreme loss of blood flow to the eye. And remember, along this continuum, there are many different phases of pathology, right? You can have constricted circulation to the eye and not have ischemia, but this would be the end of the road of an ischemic event. And, you know, there's also everybody's favorite eye pathology, glaucoma. Well, what happens with glaucoma? Well, remember, in a healthy eye, there's good stuff in and bad stuff out. If the bad stuff out channels become clogged, you're going to have good stuff in, but the bad stuff can't get out. It's like your drain in your sink gets clogged, the water's going to build up. Drain in your toilet gets clogged, the water's going to build up. It's not going to be fun. Same thing happens in the eye, and so the pressure in the eye builds and builds because the body is circulating fluid into the eye all the time. All the time, all the time, all the time. So if one of the outflow channels in the eye gets clogged up, you're going to have glaucoma, which is an increase of pressure in the eye. And that's a big bad voodoo daddy, because if that continues for a long time, all kinds of damage to the eye can be a result. So the basic fundamental, regardless of what your eye pathology is, there's some fundamental things that we need to do in order to, like first steps, right? First steps that we need to ensure so that your eyes are healthy as they can be. Number one, we have to make sure your skull bone is healthy. Number two, we have to make sure the circulation to and from the eyes is as good as it can be. And number three, it would be prudent for us to give nutrients that the eye needs in order to be really, really healthy, right? Like the nutrients in that second picture, vitamin A and zinc and selenium and zeaxanthin and bilberry and things like that, because they've been clinically proven to help the eye be healthy. So why wouldn't you want to do that? Well, you should do that. And of course, these things are all the icing on the cake. The cake itself is foundational, fundamental, holistic nutrition, because the eyes are not separate and distinct from the body. You know, the eye bone's connected to the head bone, right? And so forth and so on. The body is a holistically intricate mechanism. And so when we are attempting to make the eyes healthy, we must give the body everything that it needs. and then we give the eyes a little extra this and a little extra that. And this is why we get such remarkable results and other people do not. Because other doctors will just do a lot of vitamin A or a lot of vitamin C or a lot of zeaxanthin or a lot of lutein, right? Which in and of itself is, not a bad idea, but from a holistic perspective, it's somewhat juvenile. So when you give everything that the whole body needs and stop eating food that's gumming up the works and take some extra eye nutrients, well, that's a recipe for excellence. And we're the only people that I'm aware of in the entire world that are espousing this technique. So all of this begs the question, well, what do we do for skull bone support? How do we do this? Well, let's get into the nitty gritty, all right? For skull bone support, Beyond OsteoFX, plant-derived minerals, glucogel, and the Good Herbs Bone and Tissue Support is a very, very good place to start. If you don't like the glucogel capsules, there are other iterations that you can use. We have the glucogel liquid. We have the FlexiCare Plus, and we also have a product called Stay Restored. All of these, which is better, I have no idea. I've used all of them. I can't really come down hard and say, one is better than the other. So my advice to you, experiment until you find one that either you like the taste of, or your wallet likes the price point of, or you experience the most results from. These are the fundamental building blocks for healthy bone anywhere in the body. So when we are attempting to have a healthy skull bone, it's the same thing as if we're attempting to have a healthy pelvis or a healthy foot, right? It's the same thing. A bone is a bone is a bone. And this is where we go first. Circulation support. Hands down, the first, second, and third thing to do is the Good Herbs Circulatory Formula. Specifically for the eye, because the circulatory formula was put together in order to help the body increase circulation to the head. To the head, right? Not to the heart, to the head specifically. Now, it's going to have effects all over the body, but it was specifically designed to increase circulation to the head. The Good Herbs Circulation Support. A really, really, really awesome product. Nature's Pearl Muscadine Grape Seed and also the Muscadine Grape Extract in the liquid form have been proven to increase the dilation of blood vessels in the body. That's not a bad thing. And they're loaded with antioxidants, which is important for the fire department of your body to function the way that nature and God intended it to put out the fires of inflammation before they cause blood vessels, in this case in the eye, to get clogged up. Another really, really good product to help strengthen the fire department and increase anti-inflammatory activity in the body. Second, perhaps only to Cell Shield RTQ. Resveratrol, turmeric, and quercetin is what RTQ stands for. And those are all botanical products which, again, have been proven to have profound antioxidant activity. Really, really good product. And selenium. Selenium is to the eye what calcium is to the bone. Animals that have the most acute vision have the highest concentration of selenium in their eyes. So we need not overlook the importance of selenium in a therapeutic program, the intention of which is to optimize eye health. Circulatory formula, muscadine grapeseed extract, Cell Shield RTQ, and selenium to help increase the circulation to the eye. Now here's the second slide again. Each of these substances, vitamin C, vitamin E, grapeseed, bilberry, lutein, lycopene, astaxanthin, zeaxanthin, selenium, vitamin E, all of these are concentrated and contained in this one product, Occutive. So if money's an issue, if the budget's an issue, or if you just can't see your way, to taking 5 or 6 different supplements a day to support eye health, then just go with the Occutive and the Good Herbs circulation support. That would be kind of the bare bones minimum program to really support and promote healthy eye function. Occutive and the Good Herbs circulation support. This is a very good product. It's an all-around concentrated formula, a pretty sophisticated formula, actually based on research, published research, in order to support optimal eye health. Occutive, it's a great product. This is another product that the Longevity Company has. It's called Foresight. Foresight is high in, I believe, astaxanthin and zeaxanthin. It's one or the other. I think it's zeaxanthin. And zeaxanthin, again, has been proven to help reduce macular degeneration and reduce the formation of cataracts in the eye. All right, so I would go back and forth between these products every month and see which one you like best. If I had to choose one over the other because of the comprehensive nature, it would be Occutive. Which leads us to foundational holistic medical nutrition. And this is the foundation that everybody gets, regardless of whether they have eye pathology or not, regardless of whatever it is that you're dealing with. Or if you think that you're healthy and you're symptom free and you want overall foundation medical nutrition support, Tangy Tangerine 2.0, Beyond Osteo FX powder, plant-derived minerals in the liquid form, and Prohoba Omegas. This is my preferred way to get the 90 essential nutrients into your body. So we do this, and we stop eating the 12 bad foods. And you pick and choose the extra add-on product that you want to run up the flagpole. Pretty straightforward. Now, there are some extracurricular things that it would be useful to understand. Let's take a look at one of them. Here's the skull in perhaps a way that you've never seen it before. Don't be afraid. Living bone is something that's very, very different than Mr. Bones, Mr. Skull and Bones hanging in the high school or the college biology class. You know, the Mr. Bones hanging in the closet is hard like a rock. But living bone is not hard like a rock. Living bone is, first of all, it's yellow, it's plastic, and it's somewhat pliable, like hard plastic. And there are 22 bones in the skull which fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. 22 bones in the skull which fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. There are 8 cranial bones, and that leaves 14 other little bones. And they all fit together in this dynamic jigsaw puzzle-like architecture, which is not hard and fixed like it is in Mr. Bones hanging in the class. So, many of you know that I'm a big fan of chiropractic. I think a good chiropractor is worth their weight in gold. It's a very, very good idea to find a skilled body worker who can help to put your spine back into its proper mechanical alignment. Well, it's the same with the bones of the skull. It might interest you to know that there is a therapeutic intervention called craniosacral therapy, the intention of which is to put the 22 bones in your skull into their correct alignment. So if you are experiencing any type of pathology in your head, right, whether it's ringing in the ears or vertigo or a funny smell or a funny taste or chronic laryngitis or any problem with the eye whatsoever, then you should have a craniosacral treatment or 2 or 3, because craniosacral practitioners are trained how to adjust the bones in the skull. And it's a very, very gentle, non-invasive technique. It's not like a rack 'em and crack 'em, rock 'em, sock 'em robot type of thing at all. The craniosacral adjustment is one of the gentlest bony adjustments that you can get. Even if you don't have any known pathology in your head, I would encourage you to find a craniosacral therapist and have 2 or 3 treatments, because you just might not know what you're missing. That's the long and the short of it, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation on how to optimize eye health. Hope you learned something. I am your steadfast advocate for health, Dr. Peter Glidden, hoping to see you around campus.